Okay, we're live on the air.
We are live.
Yes.
And there's three of us.
There are three of us.
Wonderful. So I would like to introduce Peggy Snow.
Yes.
So Peggy Snow, it's delightful to have you here today. And we're just really looking forward to finding out a little bit more about you and your EFT practice. So let's just get right into it. I mean, why even mess around? I'm just curious. I know that you happen to work with a particular group of people with particular problems, and I'd like to find out more about that. Could you tell me a little bit more about what you do and with whom? Yeah.
Sure. I work with women who, after years of being married and raising a family, find themselves suddenly single and kind of at a loss for what to do next. They're often negotiating, trying to figure out their way through a divorce, maybe never saw themselves divorcing at some point, and there they are. And they're overwhelmed, roller coaster of emotions, really at a loss. And I help them to kind of calm that roller coaster of emotions and find their way through with optimism and enthusiasm for their future.
Great. What a wonderful service you provide. I'm sure there's so many women that are dealing with that. I know that I faced such challenges years ago. So for someone that's facing that particular challenge, what is one thing that you think is very important for them to know that will really help them find some comfort and healing through the process? There's one thing that you'd like them to know, because I think that it just feels very bleak when you're in it.
It sure does, yeah. I think that the number one thing is that there is hope. Number one, you will move through it, and it is a temporary thing, although it seems like it's just going to be endless at the time. And that not only is there hope that you will be moving through it, but there's a way to move through it so that you are actually turning what feels like chaos into an opportunity. It's an opportunity for growth, for expanding, and kind of finding your way back to who you are and what your strengths are and what your desires are. And building a new life for yourself.
Yeah, that's huge, because it's not always easy to see that when you're right in the middle of it.
That's
right.
For sure.
And it seems like there's no end in sight. There's no relief. The divorce, the separation, the family, the money, just so many details. It just seems to go on and on for some people for a while. So to actually have a glimpse that at some point this is going to be over, that's just so important that you can help people to see that sooner rather than later.
Right. Yeah, and I know in my case, I tried to do it on my own for a little while, and that really didn't work very well. I was trying to deal with way too much myself, and I needed some help. I needed a guide to help me through. And,
so I wanted to. That was really what I wanted to find out more. Is out of all the things that you could have specialized in with EFT, what led you to this particular niche? What led you to this particular group?
Okay, well, 10 plus years ago, I was that woman going through divorce unexpectedly. I never married with the thought that I would be divorcing at some point, and I had 3 children at the time. And, it totally took me by surprise, and I was overwhelmed and really needed some help. And I did get help. And it took me a long time, though. And I have since discovered EFT and the efficiency, and it's a brilliant system for kind of getting underneath some of these emotional triggers that happen and are just lit up when you're going through a divorce. Situations that you may have faced earlier in your life that all of a sudden are kind of highlighted through this experience that's pretty extreme. And it's a way of working with that so that you can resolve it, get up underneath some of these things and kind of start to rebuild your life, start to see things differently. It's kind of a shift in perspective.
Can you give me a little example just of how somebody that's going through maybe a divorce and just the stress with that, how something from earlier in their life might get involved, might get triggered, might come up during that period of time when there's so much going on presently, but kind of the past creeps into the present. Could you give me some idea of what you mean by that?
Yeah. Well, I think often when somebody's going through divorce, a lot of times what comes up for somebody is a sense of abandonment. even if they were the ones to instigate the divorce, suddenly what that scene was going to be the couple together through the rest of their lives isn't there anymore. And they're facing some of the issues alone, or they feel very alone at the moment. And that abandonment, it might be kind of going back to a former time when maybe one of their parents left for even a temporary period of time. Or it could be that both parents were there the whole time, but maybe when a sibling was born, they didn't have that emotional support and they feel abandoned in that sense. And looking back on it from an adult's point of view, you can think, well, that's nothing, that was just my little brother, and that's what all siblings go through. But as a little kid, your perspective is, I used to be the center of the universe, and what happened?
Right.
Mom's gone all the time,
Mm-hmm.
So, some of these things kind of come up. You don't realize you're still living them. And if you can go back and resolve those, and EFT allows you to do that, it can really positively affect your moving forward, your future, your present, what you're experiencing now, and then give you that possibility for the future of moving forward in a different way.
And the sooner, my experience has been is that the sooner that women get to that point of seeing that possibility and healing the past and starting that transition, the sooner that they are open to welcome. It seems like the quicker that the universe seems to respond to bring them what they're looking for in creating a new life again. Has that been your experience?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I know I got caught in certain cycles for a long time, and I did a lot of different things to help myself, some of which were really helpful and some of which weren't very helpful. And I was introduced to EFT very early on in the whole divorce process. My very first session with a therapist, and my husband had just come out as a gay man in that session. And it got to the end of the session, and she could see that I was kind of emotionally bombed out at that point. Mm-hmm. And she said something about EFT. I didn't know anything about it. The session was actually done, so there was no time to really work with it. And she just threw out some tapping points to me, and I tried to remember the best I could. And it actually helped me. Just knowing that much I was able to calm myself down with that. So that was my early exposure, and it took quite a while for me to come back to it and to actually see the potential that's there for real resolution of emotional issues. And that's come later.
And that's one way that you can work EFT. So do you work one-on-one with women in an office setting? Give me an idea of the way that you work with clients, so I have an idea.
A lot of times I work with people over Skype. So that can be done, I can work with people anywhere in the world, really. Skype or the phone sometimes. And I do some in-person sessions as well. I live in the Seattle area, so I work out of the east side of Seattle. And the sessions can be arranged either way. If someone's doing a package of sessions, they might want to have the first session in person, and then they might do the rest of them over Skype. So there are lots of options available.
And so, Peggy, what are some of the signs that you see or how did you know that you had really moved beyond your situation? Or how do you see that in clients where they have really have healed? What are some of the indications that you both have that, this might be really over?
For me, I started to feel real joy in my life. I started to, in fact, I kind of started to orient myself towards whatever made me feel really good. And I had really lost track as a mother raising 3 kids of even what I liked. If somebody asked me, what's your favorite whatever, I'd have to think about it a little bit. And I started to, in having to come from the bottom up, I really started to orient to, okay, well, what is important to me here? What do I like to do? I love music. I kind of started to guide towards that. And I did some more teaching and some more playing. And I started to feel good. It's just kind of, that was my compass, is finding my way through. And I see that with clients too. They start to feel that little rush of, okay, everything might, okay, I'm going to try things out.
That's great. So people that want to find out more information about the work that you're doing, how can they do that? What's the best way to get a little bit more about the way that they can work with you and what you do?
Well, I've got a website called suddenlysinglemom.com. So trying to keep it simple and to the point.
That's great.
And
suddenlysinglemom.com. That's perfect. I love that.
Yeah. So I've got a website there. It talks about the different types of sessions. It gives a little more information on my background, if you want to read about that. And a way to contact me. You can schedule your sessions right there too.
Wow.
So.
Fantastic.
That's great. Peggy, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
All right, everyone. So we are going to be doing some of these EFT business spotlights. And so thank you for joining us. And again, if you want to contact Peggy, it's suddenlysinglemom.com. All right, bye, Peggy.
Bye. Thank you.